There's a quiet paradox that many intelligent men experience, especially as they get older. It's the sense that the very mind that helps them succeed in their career, solve complex problems, and understand the world can sometimes make the landscape of love feel surprisingly lonely. The smarter you become, the more you see the patterns and complexities in life, and the harder it can be to simply be in a relationship without analyzing it. This isn't about being cold or unloving. It's about having a mind that's always working, an internal observer that never quite turns off. Real intelligence doesn't always sparkle like social charm. It's often a quiet, steady light that illuminates corners of life others might prefer to leave in the dark. It's a light that doesn't just flatter, it reveals. And when a man commits to living by what he sees as true, rather than what feels comfortable, he can become both deeply attractive and, at times, difficult to be with. Modern psychology has a term for this: metacognition, or the ability to think about your own thinking. It's a sign of high intelligence, but it comes with a challenge. It can make you feel like you're standing on the riverbank, studying the flow of your life instead of actually being in the water. Women are often drawn to this depth at first. They fall in love with a mind that seems to see the world differently, but they soon discover that this mind is a place of constant activity. He isn't just seeking pleasure, he's seeking coherence, meaning, and truth. And that search has a cost. Initially, his way of being feels like a safe harbor. He listens with an uncommon focus. He speaks with intention. Even his silence feels full of meaning, not emptiness. This steadiness can be incredibly grounding, especially for a partner who may be used to more chaotic or unpredictable relationships. From the lens of attachment theory, this man often projects a secure, stable energy that feels like an anchor. But then a subtle shift begins to happen. The very silence that once felt like a language of deep thought can start to feel like a wall. She begins to sense that it's not just born from peaceful contemplation, but from a deep internal analysis. Inside his mind, he's taking everything apart to see how it works, including the relationship. He might analyze his own feelings until they become objects of study rather than felt experiences. He might question the nature of her affection, searching for patterns until the simple magic of it begins to fade. This is a common defense mechanism called intellectualizing. It's the mind's way of managing overwhelming emotions by translating them into something more logical and controllable. It's not a lack of feeling, it's an attempt to protect himself from the vulnerability that true connection requires. What woman can feel truly connected to a man's heart when his mind is constantly building a fortress around it? This high level of self-awareness can, paradoxically, hinder spontaneity. He can't unsee the subtle inconsistencies or the predictable cycles of human behavior. Every moment risks becoming an analysis. Every kind gesture, a question. Every heartfelt confession, a hypothesis to be tested against past data. While other couples might live comfortably in the warm, simple story of their love, he's often standing just outside of it, looking at its architecture through a window. Women don't typically fall for raw intelligence itself. They fall for how that intelligence makes them feel. Seen, understood on a deeper level, chosen. But the highly analytical man struggles to stay in that beautiful, idealized beginning. He starts to notice the patterns. He might see her affection blossom when he's focused on his work, fade a little when he's fully present, and then return when he pulls back slightly. For a man who values truth, seeing the machinery of love so clearly can feel disillusioning. It's like learning how a magic trick is done. The wonder is replaced by a sense of predictability. This is where the first real cracks begin to show. He wants to offer her his full heart, but his analytical mind keeps asking for proof, for consistency, for a logical framework that love rarely provides. And she feels that hesitation even when he says nothing. It's the quiet doubt living behind his eyes that makes her feel insecure. She may not have the words for it, but she starts to resent him for seeing her and the relationship too clearly. The tragedy isn't that he fails to love. It's that his mind's commitment to unfiltered reality makes it hard to participate in the comforting, simple narrative that keeps a relationship feeling safe and magical. His perception turns intimacy into a mirror that's sometimes too sharp, reflecting not just the beauty, but the flaws, the contradictions, and the unspoken truths we all carry. He notices every small mismatch between her words and her tone, every slight inconsistency between her stated intentions and her actions. He doesn't confront it, that's not his style. He just observes it, processes it, and stores it as another piece of data. And she feels that. She feels the subtle shift in his gaze from purely romantic to something more reflective. He stops reacting emotionally to her moods and starts anticipating them. For many women, especially those who connect through emotional expression, this is the moment the magic dies. She may realize she can't sway him with a dramatic emotional display because he sees the underlying need or pattern driving it. His calmness becomes infuriating. His emotional restraint begins to feel like rejection. The very depth she once admired now feels like a threat to her own way of feeling and being in the world. So she begins to pull away, not because he's cruel or unloving, but because his steady, analytical nature is something she can't shape or control. He is, in a word, unshakable, and for someone who navigates the world through feeling, that unshakable quality can feel like a quiet, lonely island. The tragedy here is that his intelligence has isolated him, even within the one place he hoped to find true connection. He wants a deep, authentic bond, but not one built on illusion. He wants devotion, but not a codependent attachment where two people lean on each other to avoid their own emptiness. He wants truth, but as we know, the truth is rarely as comforting as a well-crafted story. Most people, deep down, seek reassurance more than reality. And when a man offers a clear reflection of reality instead of a warm, comforting blanket, he is often misunderstood as being cold. Think of it in terms of what relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman calls emotional bids. A bid is any attempt from one partner to another for attention, affirmation, or connection. It can be a sigh, a touch on the arm, or a seemingly simple question like, "How do I look?" The average person responds to the feeling behind the bid. The highly analytical man, however, might respond to the data. He might analyze the sigh, question the motive behind the question, or try to solve the emotion instead of simply connecting with it. He's so focused on understanding the why that he misses the opportunity to simply be present. His partner will eventually label him distant, an overthinker, complicated, but what she's often really saying is, he doesn't follow the emotional script I'm used to. He doesn't react in the ways that make me feel secure. When she feels insecure and creates a little drama to provoke a response, he doesn't rise to the bait. He sees it as a protest behavior, a predictable reaction to disconnection. When she withdraws to test if he'll chase her, he gives her space, understanding her need for it. He doesn't panic. He doesn't beg. He observes the pattern instead of getting swept away by the emotion. And for someone who finds a sense of connection and control in the emotional push and pull of a relationship, his calmness can feel like a quiet rejection. It neutralizes her primary way of communicating and connecting. This is because, over time, the intelligent man's priorities have shifted. He's no longer addicted to the intense highs of romantic drama, the chase, the makeup, the emotional roller coaster. He understands the neuroscience of it all, the dopamine hits of validation and the cortisol spikes of conflict. He's seen that that cycle doesn't lead to lasting happiness. He's now seeking something far more valuable, a regulated nervous system, peace. And to a partner who equates passion with emotional intensity, his peace can feel an awful lot like boredom. This is why so many intelligent, self-aware men find themselves alone, or find their relationships ending in a slow, quiet drift. It's not because they are incapable of love, it's because they can no longer participate in the performance that modern romance often demands. They cannot pretend to be partially blind, partially foolish, or partially dependent just to make someone else feel needed. They refuse to trade their hard-won self-awareness for temporary affection. They want both truth and tenderness. But in a world that often prioritizes feeling good over being good, those two things can be hard to find in the same place. He starts to feel the end of the relationship long before it arrives. He senses it in the growing silence between her words, in the way her laughter doesn't quite reach her eyes anymore, in the way she starts searching for something outside the relationship that she used to find within it. Intelligence doesn't just see the present clearly, it projects future outcomes based on current data. That is its great gift and its profound curse. He can already feel the inevitable moment when she will drift away. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. She'll use words like emotional distance, incompatibility, or the spark is gone. But the intelligent man often recognizes the deeper, unspoken truth. It's the exhaustion of being seen. Deep down, none of us want to be understood completely if it means being seen without unconditional acceptance. We want the freedom to be messy, inconsistent, and imperfect without feeling like we're a specimen under a microscope. When a woman realizes that he has decoded her emotional patterns, not with judgment, but with clarity, she can feel as though she's lost her mystery. And for many, mystery is a core component of attraction. She may start to feel powerless in a dynamic where she once felt influential. And so, when the shift happens, he doesn't chase. Not out of pride, but out of a deep, sorrowful acceptance. He understands the fundamental incompatibility. He could fight for her, he could argue his case, but he knows a devastating truth. A love that requires illusion to survive cannot withstand the steady light of clarity. He has learned, perhaps through past heartbreaks, that affection isn't just lost in big betrayals. It's often lost in overexposure. When she's seen his mind too clearly, when she knows he's capable of surviving and even thriving without her, when she realizes his inner peace doesn't depend on her constant validation, something fundamental in her admiration for him can fracture. The very intelligence that once drew her in, the stability she once craved, now threatens her sense of significance. She can't be the savior to a man who has already learned how to save himself. This is the moment of quiet collapse for many intelligent men. It's not a collapse born of heartbreak alone, but of the crushing weight of understanding. They don't rage or beg or lash out. They simply retreat inward and descend into analysis. They walk through every remembered conversation, decoding tone, context, and the meaning of every silence. They map the emotional terrain of their loss like a scientist examining the wreckage of a failed experiment. And in that very dissection, they often kill what little emotional warmth remains. They turn the raw, messy feeling of heartbreak into an intellectual problem because feeling it fully would be too chaotic. But reason cannot bury pain. It can only postpone it. This process of turning emotion into data is a powerful coping mechanism, but it's not a healing one. Reason cannot grieve. His partner, and often the world, mistakes his calm exterior for apathy. They don't see the immense internal effort it takes to maintain that composure. They don't see the arguments he has with his own heart in the quiet hours of the night, or the way he has to rehearse detachment just to feel a semblance of control. His silence isn't emptiness. It is a profound and exhausting effort. He's fighting to keep from collapsing into bitterness, because bitterness is the easy path. True understanding is infinitely harder, and he understands too much. He can see her perspective. He knows she likely didn't intend to cause him pain. He knows she left because she was chasing a feeling, an ideal of love that his reality-focused mind could no longer provide for her. He understands that she isn't cruel. She's just human, driven by her own needs and fears. But this knowing doesn't comfort him. It condemns him to a painful empathy. He feels compassion for the very person whose actions are breaking his heart. That is the quiet punishment of a highly analytical and empathetic mind. So he channels that overwhelming energy. He pours himself into his work, into his ideas, into creation. He rebuilds his solitude, not as a prison, but as a laboratory. One brick of reason at a time. This is where a crucial shift begins to happen. This is the start of what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. He realizes that this profound disappointment is not a curse. It's a crucible. It's life asking him a fundamental question. Can you still love the world without needing it to be simple? Can you still care for others without needing to control their feelings? He begins to learn that his mind, which he has always used as a tool to solve external problems, cannot solve the internal problem of a broken heart. He has to learn a new way. He must learn not to stop thinking, but to stop believing that his thoughts are the only reality. Love isn't a problem to be solved, it's a mystery to be lived. The more he tries to pin it down with logic, the more it slips through his fingers. Eventually, he stops trying. He learns to sit with the uncertainty, with the longing, with the quiet knowledge that not all questions have satisfying answers. And in that acceptance, his true strength begins to return. Not the rigid strength of intellectual defense, but the flexible, resilient strength of a man who has integrated his mind with his heart. He realizes that his intelligence can protect him from many things: bad decisions, deception, mediocrity, but it cannot and should not protect him from the pain of being alive. Pain is the tuition we pay for wisdom. You cannot think your way around it, you can only feel your way through it. And when he finally walks through that fire, when he stops asking, "Why did she leave?" and starts asking, "What did this teach me about myself?" he discovers something he never expected: a sense of peace that isn't dependent on anyone else's presence or approval. This peace changes him, his energy softens, his eyes grow calmer, he stops trying to impress people or win arguments. His words become fewer, but they carry more weight. And that's when the world, in its strange way, begins to feel him again. Women from his past, or new women who meet him, sense this profound shift. They are drawn to his stillness, a quality that is incredibly rare in our noisy, anxious world. He is a man who has built a home within himself, and those who once left may look back with a sense of quiet regret. Not because they necessarily want him back, but because they finally understand what his love meant. The man who once seemed to disappoint them with his lack of emotional drama now haunts them with his depth. They find themselves measuring new partners against his calmness, his integrity, his quiet restraint, and they find others lacking. This is how intelligence finally redeems itself in the realm of the heart. Not by winning at love, but by becoming unforgettable long after it's gone. His ultimate power isn't in being right, it's in becoming whole. As time goes on, he finds he no longer needs to chase connection. His self-contained, peaceful energy does the work for him. It's the kind of quiet confidence that makes other people pause and check their own frantic energy. This is the paradox. Once he truly accepts and even embraces his solitude, he is never truly alone again. He now knows what to look for. He isn't drawn to beauty alone, but to a certain energy, quiet, grounded, and self-aware. He's drawn to a partner who also understands the language of silence, who doesn't fear depth, and who doesn't mistake calm for coldness. A partner who, like him, has done her own inner work. He knows that intimacy without mutual understanding is just a beautifully decorated cage. He doesn't want to be adored anymore. He wants to be met. So for every man listening who recognizes himself in this story, remember this: your analytical mind is not your enemy. Your depth is not a curse. The challenge is not to shrink your truth to make others more comfortable. The journey is to build a peace inside yourself that is so solid it can hold both the beauty and the pain of life without breaking. To learn to love with clarity and compassion, to lead with quiet integrity, and to walk in a silence that speaks louder than 1,000 empty words. The world may not always understand you, but that misunderstanding is simply the price of seeing things as they truly are. The intelligent man who has integrated his heart and mind is no longer the man who disappoints women. He is the man who quietly inspires them to meet him in a place of truth. And that is a legacy worth building. If this message resonated with you, if it felt like a reflection of your own journey, let us know by liking this video and sharing it with other men who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more content that explores the intersection of psychology, philosophy, and modern life. Your depth is your strength. Let's explore it together.